I don't ever want to have to do that 60-minute ROF where the spouse has to come and the goal is to twist them to make them cry and that they need care. Like that's unfortunately taught in our profession. So then the doc's like, I never want to do anything like that. So I'm just going to wing it. That's not a good strategy.
Hello and welcome to this cool interview. I've got Dr. Josh Wagner with Patient Mastery. Josh, thanks for coming, man. We met just a couple weeks ago and I was super impressed. Wanted to get you on, a video here to share with all these awesome viewers.
Absolutely. Sam, thanks for having me. And I love speaking to chiropractors, helping them make a difference so more people get care and more chiropractors have the life and lifestyle they deserve for helping
Yeah,
patients get back to their life.
love it. Well, just a little bit of backstory. I became aware of you not recently, but I've seen you around for a long time. I know you've written a book, several books, or just a book.
Just one. I did it the wrong way where I did it 100% like by myself, trying to figure it out. And it was such a process, but it's made such a difference. I'll share a link where you can download it for free as a gift.
Awesome.
But it's a great book specifically geared for chiropractors headspace switching.
Yeah. I love it. So I've seen you around for a long time, but for maybe people who haven't seen you yet, maybe do a quick intro to you, what you're all about, and if we could start there, then we'll jump into the rest of the interview in just a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a chiropractor, so I live and breathe chiropractic. I have a coaching and practice growth program called Patient Mastery, where I'm helping chiropractors who are stuck at a collections level. Oftentimes, it's too common in the field to be around that 20,000 a month mark. Now, it's not just for that chiropractor, but that 15 to 30,000 a month mark. Oftentimes, you're not knocking out your debts like you should as quickly. You're not saving for the future, and you're not giving your family the lifestyle they deserve. We show you how to add another 15 to 20,000 a month collections, mainly profit, without having to increase marketing, not having to increase team, and being able to have 3-day weekends. And what I'm most proud of is that everything we teach, you'd be proud if your own mother was a patient in your practice, meaning we're showing you how to be recognized as the go-to chiropractor, a professional with integrity. Everything you're saying is honest, and you're leading patients to where they want to go rather than fearing them for where they don't want to go and having to pay for it. So they're just transforming the old models of chiropractic, whether it's overloading them with education and overwhelming them, or using scare, care, fear tactics, or feeling like a salesperson in practice. I know that's not how I wanted to practice. And there's a lot of chiropractors out there who don't want to have to use those scripts. And just we show you a really professional, elegant way to be the go-to chiropractor and have patients pay you out of pocket, even if they hoped and thought insurance would pay or cover most of it, and still be happy to say, can we start today, and hand the credit card. So that's a synopsis. And Sam on this call will happily get into like some strategies that they can actually use that'll make a difference.
I love that. In overall terms, I think that if you just go back in time, and if you're a chiropractor watching this and you're thinking, okay, that sounds good. I also think that it matches up with and I'm not a chiropractor, but I've worked with hundreds of them and I know, quite a few. And I think this common theme is when you go to school, the first thing on your mind is not, hey, I want to go into business. I want to be an entrepreneur. That's not why you go to chiropractic school. Right. And it's like this unavoidable reality that once you get into practice, you're like, I don't know. I don't know what it's like to be on day one. I'm here to treat patient, you know what I mean? But I know it's a harsh reality when all you want to do is help people and do the thing that that God gave you to help these people. And, then reality sets in and you're like, oh geez, I gotta learn this stuff. Is my chiropractic, is that now the back seat and the front seat is this thing? So I think maybe, and I'm sure, was that kind of your story arc as well? Is that kind of how you went into school thinking?
Yes and no. So I got into chiropractic purely off of learning and understanding the philosophy of the body's self-healing, that we do have this ability within inside. And it was just at that point in my life, I was 20 years old, I was in college, I had no direction, super empowering from a philosophical, even a spiritual standpoint. So on that end, yes, I didn't get into chiropractic thinking about being a business owner or how much money I could make or the lifestyle it would give me. It really was a purpose, passion, drawing. but I had the foresight to start visiting chiropractors, interning in chiropractors, and happened to get some great mentorship by some coaches in the field. And then I realized, wow, there's this whole business aspect. School doesn't teach you it. And I'm going to need to learn that and balance it with my love and passion for why I'm getting into chiropractic. So absolutely right. And that's what I find is most common in chiropractic. Chiropractors get into the field because of a personal story, it's in their family, or like me, they didn't get into it like a lot of medical doctors get into it of, hey, what's the easiest specialty I could get into and make 500,000 a year? Like most chiropractors aren't focused on how quickly can I get the Lamborghini and do all this. Like there's those sections, that's not the patient mastery crowd. Um, they're doing it because they genuinely want to help people. And there's so many nuances to this. Like oftentimes chiropractors come from lower to middle class socioeconomic status. And in that realm, there are a lot of, uh, I call them undeserving beliefs when it comes to money
Mm,
and when it
yeah.
comes to your ability to make or create wealth. And that ties into how you create your fees, how you talk about your fees. And so, getting back to the original point, Sam, like most chiropractors don't go to school or graduate realizing I have to have money conversations with patients or expertly train an office manager to have those conversations, but someone's got to do it. It's not like the hospital system where everything is pretty much insurance is picking this up. And most chiropractors aren't prepared. And then they fall into the traps of, oh, I think I got to educate them to get them to understand chiropractic, or I got to close them or sell them. And most chiropractors don't want to have to do either of those. So we teach just this new model that's really elegant.
It's really interesting you say that because what was how did you say ideas undeserved? What did you
Oh,
call
so
that?
that's actually what my book was based on. It's called You Deserve It. And it's this paradigm. I've been a student of self growth as long as I could remember. And then after about 5 years of coaching chiropractors and realizing, hey, I can give like exactly what to say, exactly what to do, the whole process. And what
Yeah.
happens? Does everyone go through it and double their collections? Of course not. There's people who don't use it, procrastinate, self sabotage. Like there's everything that can go wrong. And I started to realize, see a different angle on it's not just knowing what to do, it's the headspace of, do you actually believe you deserve the outcome and the results that this will have? And what I've seen them at, or what I call it, is deserving beliefs. So oftentimes we're born or grown up based on our parents with lots of undeserving beliefs. For chiropractors,
Yeah.
lots of it is around
Yeah.
being the redheaded stepchild of medicine in terms of our perception professionally and by the public. There's undeserving beliefs graduating from school based on healing ability because, let's be honest, you didn't really learn that much in school on how to help people get well. You pretty much had to, it's through experience or going outside of, the 7 techniques you were taught, and you probably learned 20% quality in each of them. So there's we talked about money, there's healing ability, there's professional reputation, um, and then there's just your deserving belief for the success and the life that you probably at some point have had a vision of, maybe wrote it down, you've set goals. But most of us, it's actually, we don't believe we deserve that. And I show you a technique of how to either strengthen your deserving beliefs or flip the switch and go from undeserving to deserving. So that's one of the mindset platforms of patient mastery, which then when you combine the actual processes and the strategies and the protocols, that's when it takes off.
By the way, at the end of this interview, I will put in the link description down below. Go ahead, go down to the link description, find these awesome resources that Dr. Wagner is providing, both his book, free content, trainings, all that kind of cool stuff. What you're seeing on your screen right now, it is really incredible value, even if you're not a customer of his. So go to the link description below once you've finished with this interview. Now let's get back to it. It's interesting. I'm not a doctor, although I play one on this YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Um, but I was just doing so I do this thing called windshield time. So every single day I do, whether it's a book, a podcast, or just listening to something, I drive for 1 hour and I listen and learn something. And just recently, I was listening to a podcast, and I'm so glad I do this because I get little nuggets like this. And there was a guy. excuse me, I think his name is Mike Dillard. He's a very reputable marketer, and he was talking about this incredible like story that changed his career. And he basically, due to health, was unable to provide for himself. This is a guy that goes from making millions of dollars to now, like he is in a really bad way. And it was mostly around some kind of like mold, like he had some kind of mold thing in his brain that made it so he couldn't sleep.
Hmm.
I probably am butchering the recap of the story, but the point of the podcast and what he led with was two ideas that changed the way that I now communicate what you're talking about in terms of fixed. I always say fixed ideas. I like yours. I'm going to try and start adopting your approach better. Uh,
Beliefs.
undeserving
Yeah.
beliefs. Um, and he talked about neurochemistry and neuroplasticity. Okay. And I really liked his approach because it's for me, it's easier to address a problem, which you are so dead on. The problem is so many times just the things that you can't detect, you can't see, you can't hear, but you can sense, right? And I showed the slides, the slide of the side of a mountain with all of this erosion going down, right? And I said, if it starts to rain, where's the water going to run? It's going to boom, go right in those channels. Your neurochemistry and your neuroplasticity program the way you do all of these things. And you need my sister-in-law is a therapist, and she's incredibly good. And I actually, it's funny because I said, what is it called when uh when you do that? And she says it's called cognitive restructuring. I have it googled right here, and I was just doing some research on it. So cognitive restructuring. And I love that you touched on a model to reprogram that. Is that, talk to me a little bit about that? I mean, without giving away any specials, whatever, but talk to me about that model. Cause I do think
Oh, I'd love to.
if,
Absolutely.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
it's called the deserving process. Now, here's what I found that separates it from anything I've seen. Now, most likely, if you're listening to this, you're a chiropractor. You're exposed yourself to some type of professional or personal development. Everyone's heard of limiting beliefs. So this is similar. It's another take that you can better anchor to. The thing with limiting beliefs is that it's just become like a buzzword. Like we all know we have them, but it's like, okay, how do we actually get through them? And most of the age-old strategies of goal setting and how to get to that goal absolutely work if you don't have undeserving beliefs about those results for your life.
yeah,
Meaning, if you
yeah,
do, you're going to procrastinate. Like you know the steps you should take, whether it's losing weight, improving your practice, whatever it may be, and you know you don't do them as well as you should, you don't do them as often as you should, you procrastinate, you avoid, you do them, but then do something else that gets in the way. It's those are all the symptoms of an undeserving belief in your psyche. What I've seen in the whole professional development, it's putting the cart before the horse. It's yes, you listen to the Tony Robbins, you listen to all the greats out there. Those steps work. Of you identify a goal, you chunk it down, you take steps. They work. However, if you have undeserving beliefs, it's like trying to build a mansion on top of a swamp. You could have the best architects, the best contractors, the best materials, throw all the money at it, but it's going to sink. So the deserving process starts with really not just identifying. Everyone knows, or with a little bit of scratching the surface, yeah, I don't believe I deserve to make 50,000 a month in practice, or I don't believe I
yeah,
deserve to have all my debts knocked out by the time I'm 45, or I don't believe I deserve to have $1 million saved, being a million. Like it's whatever yours is. It's easy to identify that if you're just a little honest with yourself. But it's another to look back and figure out, well, where'd that come from, and actually move through it. Because a lot of just analyzing, it's like, okay, now you really know what the problem is. It doesn't mean you're getting through it. Knowing where the gym is doesn't mean you're going to go and lift weights. So the first part of the deserving process, and when I say the part, it's like a 20-minute meditation, but different meditation than you've done. So it doesn't cost a dime. You do it from the comfort of your own home. You could do it every day, carve out some minutes, and it's actually showing you how to move through the undeserving to then get to a space of like blank, and then you create then you have the goal, then you bring in the visualization, then you bring in the emotion, then the steps come. So all of what most people do is accurate. It's just if you don't do the preliminary stuff, you're always going to be self-sabotaging. So the real uniqueness of the deserving process is moving through the undeserving and kind of clearing it out. That's actually what we call the first half, is clearing,
Yeah.
clearing out the undeserving and getting to like, all right, neutral, and then building on top of that with all of the wisdom that's been presented for decades.
You know what I think the problem with if you're watching this right now, here's what's happening. I believe you're already thinking that we're into the woo woo category. That's the problem. The problem is that most people think that this type of discussion, this type of, these ideas that you and I are batting around here are woo woo, meaning, okay, but really, what's the secret? What's the hack? What's the, whatever? Like, really, what are they? No, these guys are using these other. No, I couldn't agree with you more. And I might have been in that woo woo category. Like sometimes when I hear, if I'm listening to a person talk about like, their results or whatever, I do get a little skeptical. I wish that wasn't my default setting, but sometimes I feel like my BS meter is, kind of tuned in after time. And then sometimes I'm like, I need to listen to this. I need to pay attention to this. Right.
Yeah.
And what I would say is if you're watching this right now, you have to suspend disbelief and suspend whatever category you place conversations like this, whatever category you're placing them in because of your previous experience. That's like saying, um, it's no use trying to find a wife because all the girls I've ever dated sucked. It's
Mm.
like, well, hold on. All the girls you dated weren't a fit. But at some point in time, if you do it right, I'm happily married for 20 years next month, right? Got four beautiful kids,
Yeah.
very deserving guy. And I wouldn't have done it had I not dated all the other people that weren't a
Yeah.
fit. So I actually, whenever a person like you talks about identifying the undeserved, I want to get undeserved beliefs.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay.
Undeserved, undeserving. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that we start there because I can see people come in from into patient stream, for example, and I can see, wow, technically speaking, you have all the signs of opportunity in your market. I know this. I've been doing this for 8 years. You can crush it. And to hear them come back and have the same types of feedback, oh, I can't get a hold of these people, or like those types of things. I'm like, oh no,
Yeah. There's
oh
something
no,
that's going on. There's
yes,
something.
oh
Yeah.
no,
And
exactly.
and chiropractor specifically. So Sam, I don't know what other professions you either have or currently like work with, but I know chiropractors have more undeserving beliefs than other most white collar professions, whether you want to go to accountants or lawyers or MDs or whatever. And it's for a lot of those things I mentioned. Most chiropractors, me included, grew up in a lower to middle class socioeconomic status that dramatically affects your outlook on money, what your parents imprinted on you. The schooling system, for the most part, absolutely fails us. Our professional leadership is just a mess and in shambles because everyone fights and there's no unity. Redheaded stepchild to medicine, both by our peers professionally, as well as a lot of the public. So we are battling uphill compared to, like, no one thinks those things about accountants or MDs, or, lawyers have their own stuff, but at least lawyers, I need them and I got to pay. Like, people don't have that feeling for chiropractors. So we are dealing with so much more. And that's why the book is so valuable, because you apply it to what you need. And it's not some pie in the sky guarantee like, oh yeah, do the deserving process for 2 times and you have the $1 million practice this year. It's like, no. One, most chiropractors will be super happy and have the best life and they don't need to have $1 million practice. It might not be for you. And just like working out, it takes time, it takes repetition. Things don't change in a week, or like, it's, if you stop it, things are going to go back. You don't get to a level of health at 30 or 40 and then think, I worked this hard, I could just coast. Same with money, same with anything. The second you start coasting, you start going downhill, because that's a law of physics. So yeah, Sam, when you were mentioning woo woo, I hope it didn't come off like, oh yeah, you do this process and in 1 day or 2 days you flip the switch and then you're
Yeah.
like bulletproof Superman. No, like, I do it when stuff starts like I still do it. When I started it, I was doing it every day on the most significant areas of my life. And a lot of things have changed for the better. Is everything perfect? Absolutely not. And when things start to rattle me and I'm getting stressed and frustrated, that's the first area I go back to.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, myself, as I've been an entrepreneur all my life, I've never had like a W-2, job.
Mm,
And wow, that's a lonely thing to do. It's hard to do, and the struggle and all that kind of stuff. But even now, where the beautiful thing about struggle is it teaches you to either be a victim or to be resourceful.
mm,
And at which point you make that pivot because you default to being a victim. And then at some point in time, for me, it was I found a mentor that kind of shined a light on a couple of things, and who basically told me nobody's coming to save you. You need to fix this. Like it's you. And I was like, oh wow, okay, okay. And as soon as I found the like that switch of my default, well, I shouldn't say it's my default. What I want my default setting to be is resourcefulness.
mm.
It doesn't mean that my psychology and doesn't mean I'm not a person, doesn't mean I'm not immune to these different things. Cause I do like sometimes I'll be like, oh man, meaning struggle comes in. My default reaction is, oh man, and so I have to catch myself and be like, whoa, 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 hold on, hold on, hold on. This is a symptom. Let's fix the source. And as soon as I start doing that, I'm not kidding you. We can take the same problems that would have haunted and plagued me, or the people who work for me used to like plague us for days, weeks, months, years, maybe. We can be like, oh, cool. Here's a solution. Let's try that, see if it works. Moving on. And it's such an empowering thing to do. And I think and I want to move from here to your next part, because I know you're not just all about, training your mind and
Right.
things like that. But I do think your point, and I don't want to speak for you, but is just like, hey, first let's start by empowering yourself by removing all of the junk that's holding you back. That's step number one. And is that a safe summary?
Uh, Overall, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Again, I don't want to
I
speak for
just
you,
mean
but
like that statement, that could be a decade for some people. So it's like, let's
oh yeah.
but also combine like practical steps moving forward, which I'll share in the next 10 minutes. So it's not like,
Yeah.
oh, you got to do this year of mind work before you get into how do we grow our practice and make more money. It's like, let's start
Can
doing them at the same time.
maybe I could
Yeah.
share a quick like analogy real quick, because I you're right. I did kind of like condense that into a very like finite idea. But I remember when I was like, one of the things that my mentor did teach me is like, hey, get physical, do something physical. And I was a bit overweight, not like huge, but a bit overweight. And it's like, oh man, okay, I'll go to the gym. So I start going to the gym, start trying to eat better. And the first, 3, 4 weeks, I'm just like, why am I doing this? But the crazy thing is, even though I'm not the guy at the gym who's next to me, who's like super jacked, I mean, he probably has no life other than the gym, whatever. But even though I'm not him, it doesn't take me very long to feel better and to be like, hey, I, it's only been 4 weeks. That's nothing. That's no time at all. But it's effort, it's consistency. And then 4 weeks, 4 months, 4 years looks completely different. So yeah, I think that you're right. Yeah, you don't have to be the ripped six-pack dude at the gym on day one, but you got to take step number one forward, and that's where your life can change.
Yeah, and with that, as a chiropractor, you don't have to have zero undeserving beliefs. You don't have to be Superman at deserving beliefs. It's just starting to chip away at them.
Yeah.
That's progress. Like you will see collections rise outside of even knowing how to better charge and create care structures, just by starting to make improvements in these areas that are constantly swirling in your head, the fears, the stresses, the anxieties, the not good enoughs. I've experienced them all. I still do, but at a far, far lower extent to allow me to move forward,
Yeah.
and docs move forward when they're doing the same. So let's get into some tangible
Yeah.
practical strategies. So
Yes.
this all started off, we went off on the mentality side and the deserving belief side, but it started off, you were mentioning about chiropractors and like talking about money and the relationship money. And I was mentioning, yeah, most chiropractors, myself included, we didn't get in thinking we'd have to. And that's one of like doctors' biggest weaknesses is you didn't think you'd ever have to talk about money, you're not comfortable talking about money, and then you either wing it, which is not good, or, and sometimes a lot of us wing it because we were taught things to say that just don't feel good. So it's like, I don't ever want to have to do that 60-minute ROF where the spouse has to come and the goal is to twist them to make them cry and that they need care. Like, that's unfortunately taught in our profession. So then the doc's like, I never want to do anything like that, so I'm just going to wing it. That's not a good strategy. Or you're saying stuff that doesn't feel good, and then you wake up every morning feeling like, ugh, I don't want to have those day twos. Or you go to bed at the end of the night like, that didn't really feel good. I thought I was supposed to be like a pillar and a leader in my community, but my intention going into day twos is making someone cry. Like, not out of what patient mastery docs hear is people cried because it's like, wow, this is the first time a doctor listened to me. This is the first time a
Mm,
doctor I could feel like actually cares about what I want. I'm not talking about that type of crying. That's what
yeah.
we create in patient mastery, the crying of like, oh my God, you're going to have cancer in 10 years if you don't get the subluxation fixed. That's a whole different model, which, that's not the type of doctor I resonate with if that's how you want to practice and that's how you want to be in your community. But here's what happens. As a chiropractor, you fell in love with, most likely, the science, art, and philosophy of chiropractic. And you think that for patients to pay you, that patients have to agree with, understand, and accept meaning like accept it as a healthcare paradigm, chiropractic, in order to pay out of pocket when insurance doesn't cover. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. Now, that happened. That concept is where patient education evolved out of in the late 70s and the 80s when the practice management started evolving. It was from this premise that patients need to understand chiropractic in order to pay. Well, if that's the case, who's going to understand chiropractic, unless they get educated? Most chiropractors don't understand chiropractic. And you have 10 NUCA doctors, they even disagree about NUCA, let alone 10 chiropractors, they all disagree about chiropractic. So, first off, to think that a patient is ever going to really understand the logical steps of however simple your model is, hard bone on soft nerve, global subluxation, when a patient comes into you, they are in a sympathetic physiological state and mental state. When they're in pain, which, let's be honest, even if you have a wellness oriented practice, new patients are coming to you because they are in pain or they're stressed because they have a health condition that's causing them stress, even though it may not be painful. Like maybe it's, insomnia, for instance. In that psychological state, they cannot absorb or digest your education. So everything from watch this 10-minute video in the waiting room before the doctor sees you to here's a pamphlet on what we do in subluxation and tell the front desk person, take the quiz, to your spouse has to come for a lay lecture on Tuesday night, to your spouse has to come to a 45-minute or 60-minute report of findings. Like all of that stuff was with the intention to educate patients. But here's what happens. One, they can't hear it, so it overwhelms them. It makes them think, what am I signing up for? Like, this doc wants something different. Like, this doc wants to correct my subluxations, get my nervous system flowing, and have my spine aligned. And I want my neck pain gone, and I want to be able to play like softball with my buddies on the weekends. And that's very tough. And as chiropractors, we try to pull that person over here. In patient mastery, we show you how to start by going over to where they are. And when you do that, patients are going to be happy to pay. And then over time, the only time patients can really get educated is when they're not in pain, because one, they're not in sympathetic mode, and you've gained their trust. Most of the chiro education is before, as you're taught, is before the person ever starts changing their symptoms or getting well. So they don't know if it's going to work yet. You haven't gained their trust. And again, their ears are closed because when you have a pebble in your shoe, you can't be thinking and pontificating on philosophy. Like you're
Yeah.
focused on the pebble in the shoe.
Yeah.
So in patient mastery, everything we show is how instead of and this relates back to chiropractors think they have to charge. And I'm talking like mentally and perception wise. Chiropractors fall in the trap of charging for chiropractic care. And think about it. No one in the world wants to pay for chiropractic care. You know how I can prove that? Chiropractors don't want to pay for chiropractic care. You probably get adjusted once a week, once a month by your colleague down the street or at your technique seminar. Do you pay for that adjustment? Probably not. You love chiropractic, you understand, agree with it, and accept it, and you don't want to pay for it. So a person who's 40 or 50 years old, who's never been to a chiropractor, indoctrinated with medicine, indoctrinated with insurance, indoctrinated with pharmaceutical ads, you think they want to pay for chiropractic? Of course not. But just like the lawyer, people will pay the lawyer when they're in a bind, not because anyone wants to pay a lawyer, but because they want the outcome. So the first mindset shift outside of undeserving to deserving, where you got to put the work in, the first mindset shift is if you are trying to sell your care or get patients to pay for chiropractic care, which could be a plan, it could be chiro, it could be your technique, it could be modalities, it could be your visit, it could be the amount of time you spend with them, it could be your expertise. These are all ways chiropractors justify how they create their fees or justify to a patient what their fees will be. Um, for instance, my fee is $100 a visit, and there's going to be 12 of them, or 36 of them, or 64, and plus re-exams, and plus all these little things we give you, and that's why the charge is what it is. That if you're doing it that way, you're probably stuck at a collections level, and that's not a fun place to be, stuck at the same collections level. When you switch the mindset and your tone and your communication from patients paying for chiropractic care, your care, to patients paying or investing in the expected results that you're going to get them. Now, there's two things I want you to look at there. Expected means you're not guaranteeing, because one, you can't guarantee. You're lying if you are. And two, patients aren't expecting a guarantee because they know this is healthcare. They go to the oncologist, they're not guaranteeing. You don't have to guarantee. You do have to be certain. Patients will pick up on your tone, not
I
your
was just
words.
writing down the word certainty.
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding.
So
So yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
all right. So when I say expected, I'm not saying it's a gamble. I'm not saying it's a lotto ticket. It's you shouldn't take on a patient and recommend a course of care if you don't believe they're going to see results. Now, it doesn't mean 100% perfection, but if you don't believe they're going to get any type of progress that's worthwhile, you should refer them out. And that's okay. It's probably very few a year that's going to happen to based on who comes into a chiropractor. But let's get back to the premise. If you are charging for your care, your collections are stuck far below where they could be. If you start pricing and charging for patients' expected results and outcomes. Now, we already touched on the expected. The results
Yeah.
and outcomes is not your results. It is not, we're going to get the spine balanced, either x ray wise or scan wise or um, subluxation wise or global postural wise. Those are your clinical objective measures. You take them on your own time to show that you're making progress on what you're looking for. And it's not just get out of pain or let me sleep through the night or whatever ailment they came in with, the opposite of that. That's the first level. The real level of what they're paying for, which is what you have to find out in the consult. We teach the 6-question consult that'll blow your patients away, is they're paying for the expected results and outcomes, the difference it makes in their life, literally getting back to their life. So for the guy with the low back pain, it's not getting the low back pain away. It's being able to watch 8 hours of Sunday football on his couch and not being in pain, to be able to do what he loves. This isn't about being able to run a marathon or, you know, dancing with your daughter at their wedding one day out of your life, possibly, and then maybe 10 years from now. Like, realistically, getting people back to their life, when you find that out and preface, that's what they're paying for through the process that you're going to outline with certainty and honesty, you will see people say, can we start today? Hand you a credit card, even if they thought and hoped insurance was going to pay for 80% of it. Everything changes. So that's that first paradigm shift of, are you charging for chiropractic care? Or are you placing a fee on the expected results and difference in patients' lives they're going to get? And when you make that switch, you will see that your life changes, your practice changes. And that's exactly what chiropractors deserve. When you're helping a lot of your community get back to their life, Yin and yang.
Yeah.
You should have a great life yourself. That's what patient mastery is focused
It's
on.
funny you say that because like my own I'm not going to say transformation, but my own shift potentially it took time was when I started to understand the phrase of people don't buy when they understand, people buy when they feel understood.
That's a great one. Yeah.
And it's so funny because I was on a I told I don't remember the doctor's name. I was on a sales call yesterday, a demo call of patient stream, and it went longer than usual. It didn't go through because I mean, it is helpful to structure your conversation so you go through and learn about them. They can learn enough about you, and then you plan for them. You advise them. But yesterday I had a call where me and this doctor just went on and on and on and on, and I kept sharing the stories that I had, like the people and the moments of impact that had transformed their practice and what I'd learned from it. And at the end of the call, it was really kind of funny. I said, "This is like the worst sales call ever." And he started laughing. I was laughing. I'm like, I mean, honestly, if I were to train, like have a salesperson listen to this, there'd be nothing that they could pull tactically out of what I did other than my certainty. And then the reason I was sharing the stories I was sharing with him was because I could tell that this person in particular was asking really genuine questions. And I was like, how I learned how to fix that thing? It's when I helped Dr. So and so, and they were having this issue. And I realized, because that's how I mean, I think most people do learn that way. And so I really, and by sharing those stories, he was like, that's me, that's me, that's me.
Yeah.
And when we got to the end, I'm like, well, normally I would trend. You want to buy? This is like the worst sales call ever. I'm guessing you either want to get started or you had a fun conversation. What would you like to do? he started laughing and he signed up
Yeah.
right then.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it was one, obviously I'm very certain about what I do. And in terms of like, if I find a clinic that is a certain type of clinic, they're doing, these specialty service, spinal decompression, those different things. I'm like, oh man, I have got you. Do not worry. I have got you. And so it's funny because I think now, and I'm going through and I was just writing down when you said guarantee, a guarantee only comes up when a person, like for me, a guarantee comes up if the end user is not very like credible. They don't believe in what they do, right? That's the only time I get asked about guarantees. And my response to the guarantee question when I'm working with a client is, well, what kind of results do you get when you're treating chiropractic care, when you're treating whatever? And I had one guy, he was doing neuropathy, and I said, I'm happy to answer your question about guarantees, but before I do, if you were to get 10 people into your practice who all suffer from neuropathy, what kind of results do you think you get out of out of the 10, how many leave your clinic and like are symptom free? He goes, well, they don't, sometimes it depends on how long they stay. It depends on this. It depends on that. I'm like, well, that's the problem right there. The problem is one, you can't answer the question. Two, you're telling me everything where it's like the people don't stay long enough. They don't stay long enough because you're not good enough. You don't believe enough in what you do. And you haven't conveyed enough of your own belief to them. That's all sales is the transfer of my belief from me to you. That's what sales is. And don't even call it sales. Call it like helpful communication. Like the only reason that I do what I do is to help people. The only reason, I mean, are you doing what you're doing to become a bajillionaire?
No, absolutely not.
We do it. And maybe I think as young entrepreneurs, they're like, oh, I want to make money. But as seasoned entrepreneurs, you're like, I can't make money without purpose. Right. And because if it's almost like you're selling and I've been there. I was young once too. I'm in my 40s now, but I have been in the position where I was selling and I felt, man, I'm manipulating. I am not selling. And I remember the day, I'm not going to tell the story, but I remember the day one time I was doing door-to-door sales. And I remember the day that was I'd sold something and I knew that the person couldn't even afford it. And I was walking out the door and her name was Yolanda. I'll never forget her name. I said, Yolanda, can you even afford this? And she said, no. I ripped up the contract and I said, I'm sorry. And and I walked away and I left that job. I never did that again. And I had it. That was when I was, in my early 30s.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm never going to sell again. If that's what it means for me to be in that particular profession, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. I can't sell my soul, one commission check at a time. Right. So, I think that the nuance here is what is your purpose? Again, there's that woo woo cliche word, but what is your purpose? Right? Do you get the results? Let me ask you this.
Well, but hold on, before you ask that,
Yeah,
just
sorry.
to cater it to the listener, as a chiropractor, it is so easy to get pulled by, okay, this person told me to do it this way. This and getting back to like, are you in practice to try to create chiropractic wellness patients or chiropractic patients, which is a lot of the profession, that has us bang our heads against the wall because it's outside of the ones who pretty much naturally do, it's not going to happen. Or are you there to help people get their life back? And if you're there to help people get their life back, you are going to be paid well. You are going to have the life you deserve and a great lifestyle for you and your family. And there's so much wrong teaching in this profession of, again, we've got to get every new patient to buy in within a 3-day process to becoming a lifetime wellness patient after their stuff goes away. Or, we got to get them to understand the root cause of their issues being subluxation, and that's what needs to be corrected for them to reimburse, or for them to pay. Like, just so many things that gets us into a wrong paradigm. And you probably didn't get into chiropractic for either of those reasons. You got into chiropractic because it made sense helping people naturally. And we should.
And your natural psychology, just to kind of hopefully dovetail into what you're saying here, I think the mechanism is, and we all do the same thing. I mean, we're all guilty of it. You've talked a lot about, you've heard the drill in the hole. Nobody really wants a drill, they want the hole,
Mm,
right? And like for me to get on here and start talking about like marketing, advertising, all these different things, the people who that's the thing that I provide for them, they don't really want marketing and advertising. They don't want that. They want, a growth mechanism.
yeah.
So like a proven growth mechanism, they can feel confident and they're like, okay, great. My practice is growing because my whatever that thing is in front of it is there. It's installed. It's functional. I have confidence in it, and they don't care that I have this formula called the qualified lead formula. They don't care about that,
Yeah.
right? And I think that we all become principled in the thing that we're trying to master, right? And it kind of rules our thought process. The problem is if we're providing a service to another person, we must always see it from their perspective. Like that is like empathy is probably the most powerful emotional tool that you can like emotional muscle you can flex
Yeah.
that will just change the outcome of eh, but it has to go from empathy to persuasion because you can't just feel bad for a person.
Right.
You have to lead them. You have to say, "Hey, Josh, based on what you said, bum bum bum
Right.
bum, we are a perfect fit." So is this going to your next thing here?
Well, it's a great summary of empathy and leadership, which is
Yes.
for the most part our profession doesn't teach either. So we don't teach empathy. We teach it's the old Reggie Gold. We're going to rip up their symptoms and say it has nothing to do with that. This is what chiropractic is. Good luck with that model. Again, your collections are going to be stuck way below, banging your head against the wall every time you see a new patient on the books, even though that's an opportunity to change someone's life and grow your business. Chiropractors literally see new patients on their books as, ugh, I've got to convince this person. I've got to close this person. I've got to change this. Like, it's awful. Like, this is an opportunity. So,
Yeah.
empathy, we don't get taught. That's what you got to bring in. And then leadership instead of education.
Yeah.
No patient needs to get educated to pay you double what your current fees are, but they do need to be led. And like, again, having a system of communication to lead people with certainty, which doesn't take guarantees.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I know we're getting a little over on time here. But by the way, I love this conversation. I feel like it's going in an incredibly productive way. So, did you have from the point where we're at in terms of, I feel like what we're talking about really is like the method of communication once you've really honed in on your own self-belief
Yeah.
and then how you communicate. How should we proceed here?
I mean, from based on the major topics we've talked about, I would tell viewers where to dive deeper. So, like, if you go to
Okay.
patientmastery.com, you can download a PDF of my book, an e-copy. If you want to listen to my voice, it's on Audible. If you like the hard copy, it's on Amazon. But patientmastery.com, if you want to dive into undeserving beliefs to deserving beliefs, go there. If you want actual examples of communication with a new patient, the second you connect with them to build trust, rapport, confidence in you in the consult, go to patientmastery.com. There is a masterclass video where you will get what I call the leadership statement. It's 5 statements to make to them that will transform how you start every consult. And if you're stuck at around that like 20,000 a month mark, anywhere 15 to 30, and you need to get another 15,000 to 20,000 a month to change your life, go to patientmastery.com, hop on a call with one of my coaches. We will help you do that. Like, literally show you the steps of what's missing, what isn't there, what needs to be put in. That's our gift to the profession. So you can find everything right there.
I love it. And I'll just summarize with this. I love it when I talk to people like you, because you get to a point where you realize you get more by giving. And you've got a book, you've got all these free resources that are at patientmastery.com, which I'll put in the description below.
You'd see how many
You know,
docs email me regularly thanking me for that. Haven't paid a dime. I've never been part of the coaching community, but just
yeah,
are consuming the free stuff.
yeah,
Have at it. Go for it.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
and
I
if
think
you
it's
want to
great.
get
I think
faster,
it's a testament to
stronger,
people.
you
Yeah.
work together.
Yeah. No, and that's really what it is. You want a shortcut?
Yeah.
Okay, some people, you have time or money. And right now, if you don't have money, then you have time. So you've got free resources. But at some point, you do get to like this little, tightrope that you can walk. And you're like, listen, if you parted with some of your money, you could probably get a sidewalk to walk on instead of a tightrope. Right. And then you're fast tracked. Right. And for me, we don't have to finish with me, but for me, what I'll say is my life completely changed once I learned to be resourceful, and once I stopped trying to do everything myself,
Yeah.
figure out everything myself. It was step number 1, be resourceful. Step number 2, realize I can ask for help. And
Yeah.
once I did that, boom, everything changed for me, and I haven't looked back.
Yeah. It's like that beautiful saying, you want to go fast, go by yourself, but usually run into a wall. You want to go far, go with others. You want to go
Yeah.
fast and far, go with kindred spirits. And
Yeah.
that's like-minded chiropractors. This isn't chiropractors who want to go viral on social media, pose with the Lamborghini, see 1,000 patients a week out of ego, but give, shoddy care. Like, if you want to be a pillar in your community, you want to have the life that you imagined in grad school for your family, you want to be the go-to chiropractor, that's Patient Mastery.
I love it. I couldn't end it any better. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you on the next video.